Good afternoon, everybody. I am Tony, the Geeky Agent from here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, specifically here out in Binbrook. And I'm going to be joined today by my good friend and colleague, Stephanie Arnold from British Columbia. She is just waiting in the wings to come on here. Stephanie is a digital marketer, so she takes care of digital marketing, social media, all that sort of stuff for a lot of different clients, but mainly in real estate. She is a Richard Robbins contributor and worker with Richard. She also works on the Keith Roy team out for Remax out in British Columbia. So we're going to be talking about all those kind of things, plus a lot of other fun stuff like improv, stand-up comedy, taxidermy, Star Wars, and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff, because it is 420, so you might as well get a little bit nuts. So, hey, smoke them if you got them. It's going to be a fun day. And without further ado, I'm going to see if I can not mess this up and bring Stephanie on here fairly seamlessly. And almost. And there she is. Hi, Stephanie. How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you for being with us today. Hopefully everybody can hear you. I think they can. Jason says hello, Stephanie, from our little group.
Hi,
there.
Jason.
There you go. So, full disclosure, Stephanie is a geek like me, just so you know. She is a member of the League of Real Estate Geeks, just like me, and that's how we met. That's how we first got to know each other. But Stephanie is also was a real estate agent once upon a time. So, I mean, I guess I'll let you sort of tell the story about how this all got started, because I know I've been through your website and your consulting site and all that sort of stuff. So I know you started in real estate in British Columbia, but then eventually transitioned into basically just helping real estate agents. So how did you get started initially? Like, why real estate in the first place, I guess?
Yeah, I was working in sales before. I was fairly good at it, and I just decided, you know what, I'm sick of making somebody else money. I want to make my own money. So kind of just randomly had a bad day once and was like, I'm signing up for my real estate license. And so I did. I sold real estate for 3 years. I was with McDonald Realty, and a lot of the work that I was doing, I was getting because of Facebook and email marketing. And it was back in 2010. So, I mean, Facebook was a thing, but Facebook ads and the way we use Facebook now, it wasn't really like that. But I realized I just love that part of it. Like, I spent all my time working on Facebook stuff and creating an awesome website, and so much time that, like, I realized I didn't actually enjoy the sales part of selling houses so much as I enjoyed the marketing side of it. So yep. I transitioned into working on another team where I did some marketing, and then I joined Keith Roy's team doing the marketing for them. And now I've just sort of branched off and do marketing consulting for a number of agents and real estate coaching for Richard Robbins.
Cool. So as far as your involvement, I guess let's start, pick it apart, I guess.
Sure.
As far as your real estate coaching with Richard Robbins, what does that involve? Like, is it like weekly calls that you're having with people, or is it a bunch of different things that you're doing there? Like, what type of services are you providing in that particular avenue, I guess?
Sure. So I have worked for the company for 2 years. And when I first started with them, I really just wanted to work for them, and I would take any role that they could give me. At the time, they needed somebody to do copywriting for them. So I started off as a copywriter. And then I would do a little bit of like social media help here and there. And then about a year ago, I told them, okay, I got to confess something. The reason I wanted to work for you is because I've always wanted to be a coach. And so they were really excited about it. I took some coaching training programs, and then back in January, I officially became a coach with the organization, which is pretty unprecedented. They usually have really strict rules that you had to have been an agent for 15 years. I'd only been in real estate for 8 years, so it was sort of new for them, but I guess I had some skills that they liked. So my coaching is, I have a call with people I've got 3 coaching clients now. I have a call with them. It's a half an hour call every 2 weeks. And we talk about marketing, but we also talk bigger goals for the real estate practice. We do some role playing, business planning, that kind of thing. There's a little bit of in between that goes on too, like some emails and that kind of stuff, but basically just helping people grow their real estate business.
Cool. And I know you're working on, I know you produced Keith's podcast. So you guys work.
I got my Vancouver on Real Estate show mug.
There you go. So plug away. So how do you find the podcast? Like, what's the actual official name?
Yeah, it's called the Vancouver on Real Estate Show. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Stitcher, Google. or you can find it online at vancouverunrealestate.com. It's basically anywhere you'd find podcasts.
Right. And so you produce the show. So what, like most people don't really have an idea of what happens behind the scenes. Especially if you're getting, like, there's a bunch of real estate agents. I know because I do the videos, they ask me, and I know there's a few, it's still a fairly few number of real estate agents in general that do things like podcasts and videos. When you look at the overall number of real estate agents out there, it seems like there's a lot of them, but when you really look at the number, it's really small. So people don't really necessarily know how you get started. So when you're working on the podcast and that kind of thing, how did you guys get started? What kind of like pieces of advice would you give people to when they get started? Like, keep these 1, 2, or 3 things in mind when you get going.
Yeah. I've written a bunch of stuff on this because people are always asking me. So if anyone's listening to this and wants information, you can send me, put a message or something in the comments, and I'll email you. Like, I've got a whole list of how-tos and what equipment I use and that kind of thing. But just a couple of quick tips. I think it took a lot longer than I thought to get it going. There was a lot to learn. Initially, we started running the show once a week, and when we switched to every 2 weeks, once a week was quite a lot when we both have a lot of other jobs.
Sure.
So I would say the consistency was really important, and keeping up with it regularly. Like, we released a show every single Sunday, and now it's every other Sunday, but people look forward to the consistency of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the individual agent who wants to run a podcast, I would advise against it unless you have help running it, because it can be really time consuming to get it going. And
I think you hit on a couple of good points there, because I think a lot of agents get involved with either doing video or they're doing podcasts and that kind of thing, and don't necessarily know the amount of work that's involved. And I think and I think a lot of times when you're listening to people who are promoting using video in real estate or whatever it might be, they kind of make it seem easy. Like, you just grab your camera and you just go. But once you really get into it, I think there's, people don't really understand. There's a lot more work in planning, preparing for it, and then editing after the fact and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, we're real estate agents. So at some point we have to talk to customers and clients and go and generate business. And definitely having the podcast and the video helps us do that. But personally, I rely on people like you. Like, I don't take my own property photos. Like, I hire a professional photographer and video person. For broadcasts like this, where it's fairly simple, I'm just here on my desktop. I can kind of take care of it myself. But I've got a long background of tech work and doing this kind of thing. So to me, it comes fairly easy. And the other side of it is just like the equipment that you need and all that sort of stuff. So how much time do you think, like, consistency is the other part of it? Like, you don't want to get too deep into it and then find you don't have the time, and then people are disappointed because you're supposed to be there on Friday and you're not there on Friday. How much time would you say, like, ballpark, that you put into like a single podcast, as far as like prep work and editing and getting set up and actually filming it and all that sort of stuff?
Well, it's less time now than it used to be, because a lot of this is it's templated. I have guests kind of queued up and ready to go. So at the beginning, it was like 5 or 6 hours an episode, and now it's more like 2 hours an episode. And then that's not including the time that Keith actually takes to go and do the interviews. So my process, as far as somebody who produces the show, I reach out and I find guests, and then I'll do all the marketing, all the guest follow-up. I do all the editing. I do all the releasing of the episode and that kind of stuff. Sure. But now, because I have so many systems in place, it's kind of just plug and play. It doesn't take too long to do anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's key as well. I mean, for real estate in general, I know Keith does speaking for Richard Robbins as well, and he talked about team building. I got a chance to meet him at Inman Connect in New York just this past January, so that was awesome to finally get to meet him in person. He said I have to refer to him as Mr. Keith, so okay, that's fine. But yeah, I think that's key for anything that we're doing. It's like you said, creating those templates and those systems to make the business easier. From a real estate perspective, just dealing with clients and following up with clients, making sure nothing falls through the cracks and that kind of thing, lead follow up. And then, again, if you're doing podcasts and videos and stuff, once you start creating the templates, like everything that's surrounding us right now is a template that was created. So the time went in up front to do this kind of stuff. But then once you get going, it gets a little bit easier as you go along, right?
Totally. Yeah.
We got a couple of people, I'm just saying, throwing up some stuff. Melanie wants to hear the podcast info. Jason wants you to send them stuff. So I'm going to let anybody know, like, we are live. We're going around. We're about a 5 to 10 second delay on the broadcast. But if you do have any questions for myself or for Stephanie, please feel free to leave them below. I'll try to follow along and answer them, and we'll bring them up during the podcast as well. I know you mentioned to me that you've been working on a new series of videos about how to use Facebook for real estate agents. What sort of what's happening there? Like, what's the content there? What's it about?
Yeah. So I'm busy, right? Like, I've got coaching clients, consulting clients, I do the podcast. I'm sort of tapped out as to what I can do personally. So I've been creating a online course. It's just going to be called Facebook for Real Estate, and it's like a go-to resource center, everything a real estate agent would need to know about Facebook. So it's a full online training program. I'm releasing that in June, so I'm still in the recording and editing process right now. But it's basically 3 modules. It's what you can do on Facebook for free, what you can do in terms of Facebook ads, and then a 3rd section on putting it all together and creating a marketing plan. So you're really taking what you've learned and then figuring out how you can apply it to your business. So I'm super excited about that.
Okay, and how will we be able to sort of get in touch with you to do that? Is it through a website subscription service type thing, or how does that work?
I will be aggressively posting it everywhere, so you will not be able to miss it. But it will be on Facebook. It'll be on my website at stepharnold.com. You'll be able to find it there too.
Cool. And what kind of I guess basic tips would you give a lot of real estate agents? 'Cause I think, there's beginner stuff, and then there's something that's a little bit more like 201 type stuff, like next level type stuff, because there's a fair bit of how you get started, right? So you create a Facebook page and you do all this sort of stuff. Now that you've done all that, you've got a Facebook page and you've got your profile set up and all this sort of thing, give us 1 or 2 tips as to like what kind of things should real estate agents be looking to do using Facebook that's not going to, like, number one, overwhelm their clients and their audience that they get sick of watching you, and in terms of content, I guess, like what kind of things would you recommend agents kind of look to put onto Facebook and that sort of thing?
Sure. So I'll give a quick tip first of all, if you've already set up your page, on optimizing your page, and then I'll give you a couple ideas on what to post. Because I feel like there's a few things that agents are really missing when it comes to setting up their page and just making their page look super professional. The biggest thing I would say to do is to verify your page. It's so easy to do. I think people don't realize how simple it is to do, but a verification is just that little gray check mark next to your name. It'll make your page so much easier to find. It makes everything you do look a little more professional because you've got this verified by Facebook checkmark. And it's as simple as just going to your page, clicking settings. In the general settings, there should be a little thing that says verify page. You just click a button, Facebook will call you, give you a code, and you enter in your code. I would say as much as 90% of agents that I see do not have this done, and it's like the easiest thing that you can do to increase your Facebook page reach.
Yeah, I just honestly just did it like 2 days ago, and it took me about 2 minutes, so that was easy.
It's so much easier than you imagine. And then in terms of what to post, I always say I use the 80-20 rule. So you still want to post stuff about your listings and your open houses, but I would say only 20% of the content that you post should be listing posts. And then the other 80% is personalized content. So that's posts like blogs you create, videos you create, Facebook Live, just a whole variety of different things. Whenever possible, do video or Facebook Live. It has a much higher potential to reach people than anything else.
Right. And then, Facebook Live is becoming a much bigger part of the whole Facebook platform. I know that's becoming a huge push as far as Facebook is concerned. I mean, they're competing with YouTube and other services that are out there as well. Are you seeing agents in your market sort of embracing it more, or is it still something that people are struggling with, or the people that you have on your coaching calls, are they kind of putting the feelers out to you, like, Steph, like, what should I do? Like, how do I do this kind of thing, or How's it
It's one of those
transpiring?
things that it's funny. People say, "Oh, how do I do it? I don't know how to do it." Like, you just hit live. I mean, it's more the fear, right? People have such a fear about it.
Yeah.
Not only just with being live, but with video in general. And I say, like, people are worried about how they look on camera, and I mean, I'll say that's what you look like in real life.
Right.
People still like you, so just get over yourself and do it anyways. There's no magic solution for it. You just kind of have to have the courage and turn it on and get rocking and rolling with it. But I would say that most people are not utilizing it, and they should be.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I look at it too. I mean, I think what I've mentioned to other agents, I know we've gone to like some YPN meetings and all this sort of stuff, and the takeaway that I've always kind of let them know is, like, as we mentioned already, like, look at the overall number of agents. So here in Hamilton, Burlington area where I am, there's about 3,200 agents registered on the board. Of those 3,200, there might be about 30 or so that consistently put out, whether it's property videos or whether it's market update type videos or any of that kind of stuff. So if you're jumping into that pool, you're essentially in the top 1% of realtors in your market in terms of what you're doing as far as marketing the properties for your clients and for reaching out to people and just sort of creating that audience. So like I said, it's pretty easy, and it's something that I think we miss because it's what we already know. I mean, you just talk about what you know. You talk about real estate. You talk about the community that you live in, and there's always that option to kind of just make the live video just for you. I think people forget that. It's like you think when you go live that it's already being broadcast to the entire world, but you can do it so it's just only you that sees it, and then if it looks like crap, you just delete it and get rid of it.
Totally. And that's the thing I suggest. If you're worried about doing it, just change the privacy to only you and test it out first. But like we said, with podcasts or with videos, these things can take time to edit and get perfect, but Facebook Live is easy. There's no editing. You just hit go and you just rock and roll. It's the simplest thing you can do. And unfortunately, like, the baseline for succeeding in real estate is stupidly low. I can say this because I don't have a real estate license. Like, the majority of realtors suck at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you just have to not suck. It's not... You don't even have to go crazy with it, but if you do a couple of these things, you're already better than the majority of agents. So just get out there and have the courage to do it.
Yeah, and we kind of say the same thing. Like, I know, Tony Joe, he's out there in Victoria with you guys as well. And I take Tony as an example all the time because, A, he's a geek like us, so I like to promote geeks, and that's always good. And he's out there in Victoria. He's been doing video for probably more than 10 years now, since the early days of YouTube. And it's really just a tripod and his phone. And that's really it. So, and he's just been doing it consistently without any real fancy editing or anything like that. But he was probably the only one. Like, about 10 years ago when he got started in Victoria, he's probably the only agent that was doing anything like that. So if you're looking for real estate info about Victoria, he was the only guy that was out there, right? So again, like in any market, you're in that top 1 or 2% of agents that are actually utilizing the tools. So if people are looking for you or looking for information about your area, you're the go-to person at that point, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say about that is the consistency is important with it too, right? Like, you've got this show that you run consistently. It's your show. And so I would suggest to come up with a show, whatever that looks like for you, something that you run every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is, something that people can look forward to and that you're putting out regularly. Also, when you're trying to figure out then what's kind of content to create, okay, well, I just have this show. What can fit into this show? I think it eliminates a lot of the guesswork, and it also makes you look a lot more professional.
Yeah, I think there's some... There are those moments, I think, on Facebook Live where you can just go on and just talk to people and, you do what you do. But if you are going to be consistent, like we're doing here, like this interview show that I've been trying to do sort of every Friday kind of thing, it's, I was in touch with you like almost 2 weeks ago, and we've been talking about it just casually saying, okay, here's kind of what we want to do and getting it set up ahead of time. So there is a little bit of pre-planning involved if you're going to do this type of interview type thing. But on a daily basis, if you're out there and you're like, just thought of a cool real estate tip that you can give to buyers or sellers, and you just fire up your phone in your community that you live in, that you work in, and just talk to people like the way that you would normally talk to people, like that's really all you need to do. Like, I don't think I've ever done a market report where I've tried to be like a news anchor. I'm sitting there, I'm just kind of like, hey guys, here's what's happening in the market, as if I was talking to a client sitting across the table from me, but I'm staring at this camera with the little blue light on instead, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. So that's that. So that's your video series that you're working on there. What else do you have going on as far as the digital marketing stuff? Like, I know we both kind of know a few people that are in the industry. We hang around with Andrew and Danny and Amanda. I got to sit and have dinner with you, but just before Christmas there, I think it was, or not that long ago. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
I think it was. It was before Christmas. It was a while
I think
ago.
so, yeah. And then Amanda and Andrew are both digital marketers as well, happen to be there with us as well. So what other type of things does a digital marketer do for like real estate, for anybody really, but specifically say for real estate agents?
Sure. So my bread and butter is more digital marketing strategy. So I have run, right now I'm actually doing all the social media for Richard Robbins for a couple months and then kind of passing it back off to them once we've come up with a strategy. But that's more my thing is strategy and training. When somebody needs like regular ad marketing or they need someone to manage accounts, I actually will refer people over to Andrew and somebody like him who has more of a marketing agency approach. That's just not where my skill set is. My skill set is more in coaching and training. So that's what I do. So I sort of will work with larger real estate teams for a couple of months at a time and figure out what kind of goals that they have for their business and then develop a strategy that works for them and then train them on those tactics.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I guess what I was going to ask, one thing that got me interested when we're talking to you anyways, is that you do a lot of other things. So I think,
yeah,
like we all do, but a lot of them I think tie into the whole just sort of being online kind of thing. Like for me, like a lot of people, and it's good and it's bad. A lot of people kind of like the fact that I'm online a lot, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or wherever I happen to be. And I'm usually, even before real estate, I was just kind of putting stuff out there because I just enjoyed it. I just I don't know if I like the attention, if I'm just, I'm just entertaining people or whatever it might be, but I really just enjoy communicating with people that way. And then I know you've taken some improv classes, so that was kind of, after you mentioned that online, suddenly I was talking to a few different people who are also real estate agents in this area who are actually make regular TV appearances in this area on like the different news channels. And they're all taking improv classes. So I was like, it's just too much of a coincidence and stuff. So why improv? Like, how did you get involved in it? Like, how has it helped? Yeah. How has it helped you as far as, I guess, your presence in terms of giving presentations and doing video and that sort of thing? Like, what's involved with it? And like, this is like a wide open question, but
it's okay. I love talking about improv. I've been doing improv for a long time. My love of it started when the Whose Line Is It Anyway show was on in the 90s. I loved it so much that I would like get together a group of friends and we would like make a little faux improv show at school at lunch by the tree. And then when I was old enough to kind of realize what improv was, I was taking classes in it and I started doing a bit of performing. And then I kind of took a break for a few years and then maybe 4 or 5 years ago got back into it pretty hardcore, taking classes in performing a little bit around town. I think it's so helpful for anybody who is in sales. Really, I think it's helpful for anybody in general, but it makes you a better listener. It makes you more confident. It allows you to use humor. There's so many things about improv that I think just make you a better person in general. Plus, it's a chance to get on stage and just be so ridiculous. I honestly think it's my therapy most of the time. Go on stage and pretend to be a chicken and people laugh at you and it's just such a huge release. Like I enjoy it so much.
That's awesome. I mean, I think I was a huge fan of Whose Line Is It Anyways as well. I think most people were. And just the old British version too. So I'd go back to that far.
Yeah, right.
But so that's that. And then how do you go from that into like stand-up comedy? Because we, like I said, we had dinner and like before Christmas it was, and you're awesome and stuff, but I didn't think you were all that funny really. I don't know. Just saying. I don't know. I thought I carried the conversation most of the evening, to be honest.
You know what? such a show stealer. And in the improv world, it's almost kind of an insult when someone tells you should do stand-up because in improv, you want to be like a team player. And so everyone said, you should do stand-up. And so I thought, okay, I'll try it. So I wrote some jokes and I tried some stand-up, and I went at it hard for about a year, maybe 2 years. I hated it kind of the whole time, if I'm being honest. It was a really good experience to force myself to get up there and do it. I learned a lot, but I hated the late nights. I hated, you get up there and people just assume, they're like, okay, make me laugh.
Right.
And in improv, they're a lot more understanding. They know you're making it up as you go. Plus, you always have your teammates or the other players on stage. So if you mess up, they've always got your back. Stand-up is really solo. The people who do stand-up tend to be like mean and grouchy, and it's this, you'd assume it'd be like this fun world, but stand-up comedians are actually like super jaded, angry people. Yeah. But at the time, I was going through a divorce, and stand-up was great for just helping me get over that. Like, I got to go up on stage and just like tell my horrible life stories. And,
there you go.
I think that a lot of people get into comedy because they're going through something tough in their life. Yeah. And so for me, it worked, and I think it made me a better speaker, and it was a good thing to challenge myself with. But no, I'm done with it. No. Yeah. Improv. No more.
You got all the anger out. You're good now.
Yeah, good.
But I've heard kind of the same thing. I love stand-up comedy in general, and I've been, I have never done any, but I've been sort of almost a student of it for many, many years, and watch interviews with comedians and stuff. And you're right. I think most of them kind of come up with the same thing. They almost have like a disdain for the audience, almost like they have this sort of chip on their shoulder, and they've gone through some stuff, and it just find humor in really horrible situations sometimes, right? So, but yeah, I can see how it just gives you that moment in the spotlight where you really have to. You're put on the spot. You have to perform. So it developed those skills kind of thing. So we've seen a bunch of pictures of you doing stand-up, just so you know, while you're talking about it. And you had a really mean face in one of them, so I think you did well. But I mean, I think part of that, I guess, like, it's weird because I think I'm a pretty introverted person myself, and I think a lot of real estate agents are to a certain extent. But I've heard before, and I know that introverts seem to be the best performers. I know this is true of one of my sons anyways. He's usually a pretty quiet little kid, but if you give him the chance to perform, he just takes over the stage. Like, he just wants to be the center of attention and that sort of thing. So, I mean, how does your personality play into this? Like, how are you, like, off the stage, away from, like, everything else? Are you pretty quiet, or are you pretty much just really gregarious and friendly and open, like the center of attention when you go to a party, that kind of thing?
That's a good question. I've always wondered. I'm not sure if I'm an introvert or an extrovert, because I do really like talking to people, but my job is pretty solitary. I mean, I sit at home in front of a computer most of the time, and I do work by correspondence or by the phone. And I like that. I really do like my alone time. Like, we've talked about going to the movies by yourself, like one of my favorite things. I'm going to the movies by myself later today.
Well, there you go.
I love it. But yet I do love being the center of attention when the time calls for it, but not really at a party. No, I just like being on stage.
No, me too. I think I understand what you're saying. Like, I'm usually pretty quiet, and I do. Like, so we've talked before. I do go to movies when I'm by myself. I just went the other night to go see A Quiet Place, and it was. So if you're going, that's an excellent movie to go watch, and it's short too. So you're in and out. So then you get into that, and eventually we'll talk about some other stuff too. But you also do taxidermy, which is, I don't know how this plays into the whole picture.
Yeah,
but
people are pretty weirded out by my taxidermy. I read a book a couple years ago, and the main character, I can't remember what it was now, but the main character was into taxidermy, and she was just like a quirky character. And I started Googling intro taxidermy courses in Vancouver. Oh, there's taxidermy photos. I started Googling intro taxidermy courses. I found one, but they only ran it once a year. So I got myself on a waiting list, and then they came up. So I decided to do it. So I taxidermied this rat, and made him a little hula dancer. And then the second course came up, but it was actually a couple weeks ago, and I decided not to do it because it was taxidermying a baby chicken, and I just didn't think I could do it. I was like, oh man, a little chick? No, I don't think I can cut it apart. But I do want to do another rat, and my next plan is I want to get 2 rats. I'm going to skin one, and then I'm going to make the other one wear the skin of the other rat as like a little cape.
Yeah, because that's not worse than a baby chicken, right?
I don't know. We all have our limits.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I took zoology courses for 2 years in university, so I cut apart just about every kind of animal you can think of. And you know what? Like you do, after doing like a shark, like a baby shark and a bunch of other things, we got to the point where I think we had to do a rat. It was a rabbit. And something about it, I just couldn't do it. And it's like, but I've eaten rabbit, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you get to that point. It's just like this far and no further. We're good.
Yeah, it's a cool thing though. Like I like it more than I thought I would. It's a mix of biology and art together, so it's like this cool breed of science and art, which I find really interesting. So I think it's kind of cool.
No, it's awesome. I think you know what, and. You know, like I said, I'm a geek, and I know you are too. And we have the League of Real Estate Geeks, so there's a whole bunch of us in there. And generally speaking, I try to get people into the group, and I try to associate myself with people who are just really passionate about stuff, right? Just whatever it happens to be, you're kind of all in, right? Like you know, everybody kind of has little interests about different things here and there, but I really love to be around people who are just like, you know, this is what I really love. And they know everything there is to know about it, and not just know about it, but actually take action and do things. And I think that's usually the way people define the difference between like a nerd and a geek, right? This has become part of our culture. So like the nerds are the ones that like study everything and don't do anything. And then the geeks are the ones like Steve Jobs types and, you know, even Bill Gates types and just everybody out there who really has a passion and then actually makes it into something. So you find that interest in like taxidermy, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go take a class. I'm gonna go and do it, kind of thing. And then with real estate too. I mean, you found your way through from just being an agent to like what you really were passionate about the marketing and the strategy. And instead of just kind of plodding along as an agent, you actually took action and decided, okay, I'm gonna make this my thing. I'm gonna pursue this and make it my thing. How do you? I don't know. How do you manage all these different things that you got going on? How do you find balance? Yeah, because I mean, the other thing I noticed too is you're a yoga master. Like, so I'm scrolling through. I'm trying to save pictures, so I just saved them under Stephanie Bendy because there's so many pictures of you stretching and being bendy and stuff. And I just
do you have my Princess Leia yoga photo? That's probably my
favorite it's one. Coming up. Here's a couple here coming up. And that one will help us transition to some other stuff too.
Yeah. I think
standing on your head on a paddleboard. I mean, like, I wouldn't even think to do that. I don't know.
That was alligator infested water too.
Even better.
That was in the Philippines. That was a stupid idea. My paddleboard instructor was like, "Yeah, there's alligators in here," and then somehow I decided that was the smart plan. I think I would say saying yes to things means saying no to other things, and I say yes to a lot, but that does mean that I have to say no to a lot. I like to try little things. Like I got into yoga, and I was like, well, I'm just going to do this hardcore. I'm going to go to New York and learn from a yoga guru, and I'm going to just try this. And you know, I take little bits of it. Like I did the taxidermy course, and I'll go really hardcore into something. I'll learn something, and then I'll bring it into a different area of my life. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of tapped out. I'm doing so many different things, but then like my life when I'm not doing all these things is super boring. Like I get up, I go to the gym, I work all day, I watch Downton Abbey and I go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, you do a lot of stuff, but then there's sacrifices that you make to be that busy too.
Yeah.
You just, you want to do the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I just want to like take something out of life. There's so many cool things to do. I see something like rat taxidermy that I can turn into a hula dancer. I'm like, that is too cool to pass up. Like, I just want to live. I just want to try it all.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, and what you say, I think, is the thing that people miss sometimes in trying to find that balance is the ability to say no. I think that's kind of, people kind of feel bad, especially if you're the type of person that likes to help people. You hate having to say no to certain things, certain times, because people really respect what you do and really value what you can add to, say, a project that they're working on or something like that. But there are those occasions where you do have to say, like, it's just too much, right? Like for me to be really good at one thing, I'm going to have to say no to this other thing, at least for now, kind of thing.
Totally.
Right? And
I feel that a lot with my with social media stuff, and it took me a while to kind of figure out what my niche was and how I was going to manage that, because there are people like Andrew who are already crushing it and doing so well. And I think, like, I know that there's a huge market for people who just don't want to manage any of their social media, who are just like, here, do this all for me.
Right.
But, that's just not where my heart is. And I don't think that's my skill set, is managing all of that. Like, I really want to focus on training and coaching. And so I have to say no to that. And it's tough because sometimes it almost seems like easy money. People are like, here, take it. I need your help. I'm like, I just can't. I'm trying to build this other thing, but it's sometimes really hard to say no.
Yeah, and I think real estate agents get into that thing too sometimes. Like they get into, like they want to do the video part, and it's fun. But, so they kind of want to get involved, and it seems like a lot of fun and something they love to do. And it starts to distract them or take them away from actually doing the business, right? So social media is like that too. It seems easy, and it is easy. Obviously, you can post stuff on Facebook all day long if you want, or Instagram and that kind of thing. And because it's more fun, it kind of takes away from proper prospecting, like actually following up with clients and generating leads and doing all those things. So there's always that balance you have to achieve. But like the stuff that's fun to do and the stuff that's like needs to be done. That's that work balance, like, that you have to kind of achieve. So I think I usually try to caution people, because social media in particular can be just a time suck, right? And you could just spend all day posting things or looking at things that other people have posted, or getting into these really long rabbit hole discussions or arguments with people, depending what you want, like on Twitter or even on Facebook and that sort of thing. But there's like, at the end of the day, like we said, I'm a real estate agent. I got to sell houses, so I got to go and actually work, right?
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, this should be making you more money, and it is tough to. It's tough sometimes to see the value in something like social media, because people aren't necessarily going to call you and say, "I'm calling you because I saw your Facebook ad."
Right.
But if you're tracking your business and you can see, I've done more business in 2018 and 2017, and what I've done different is I've done a regular weekly video show, then that's the way that you can kind of start to track it. But you're right. I think they need to have a clear plan and an idea of, I'm spending this much time a week on Facebook, and that is it. Or I'm going to, have a schedule for the things I'm going to post, and then I'm just going to pick up the phone and start making calls and writing contracts and selling houses. At the end of the day, that's your job. You have to sell more houses. And you're right that I think people get really easily distracted because it's fun. I can attest to this. I gave up selling real estate because I thought it was so fun. I wanted to do this stuff all the time. Yeah. So I understand, but you still do the tough stuff too. Yeah,
and like you said, I think that's the other part of it too, is that when you're doing this, there's certain stuff that you can track. So if you're putting out a Facebook ad, you can see how many leads it generates and that sort of thing versus how much you spend. And then there's a lot of other stuff like this interview here and other things that are just, it's more mind share. So you're building that brand and you're getting that recognition. I know for myself, I can attest to probably about a year ago or so, like I've always done little videos just for fun. So like I look at my YouTube channel now and there's well over 100 something videos that I don't know how they got there. It's just stuff that I was doing, as chirping other agents and just having fun and doing whatever I was doing. But within the past year or so, I kind of focused more on just being regular and showing up a couple times a week on Facebook Live or doing market updates, and my business has skyrocketed as a result. So it's nothing that I can, and I really haven't, aside from that, I really haven't done much differently. Like the regular everyday business is there, but I think you're staying top of mind with people, and most of the people that tune into this interview, that my Facebook Live channel, are other realtors, and about 60% of my business is realtor referrals. So that's you kind of got to know your audience too, I think. Exactly. So as far as content goes, again, when you're talking about reaching out to a community, so if you're a real estate agent that wants to service a specific community, what sort of strategies might you recommend for something like that? Like 1 or 2 tips as far as the type of content, aside from listings and open houses and that sort of thing, that they might want to look at posting either on Facebook or Instagram or however they go about it.
If you're trying to, I think for a specific community, a great idea is a Facebook group. If you have to make sure that there isn't a group that's already existing that is very similar to what you're doing. I'd say find something that's sort of unique. But if you have a niche product that you work in or a specific neighborhood, Facebook groups are really underutilized for real estate agents. So starting a group is a great idea, and you can advertise your group with Facebook ads, that specific postal code, and try to get more people to sign up in that group. But it's basically just, and what to post in the group would be things about the neighborhood, trying to ask questions, connect different people, doing interviews with different people who own a restaurant or service providers in that area, just kind of building a community. And that's really what a group is a chance for you to build a community and then establish yourself as the expert. So you can have, the Hamilton real estate group or whatever it would be, and your cover photo is a photo of yourself. It's like whatever the group is, sponsored by Stephanie Arnold. But in your group isn't really a chance for you to sell, but it's a chance for you to connect people, build a community, and become an expert in that area. So I think groups is a great one.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's not a chance to sell, right? It's like you're kind of connecting with people. You're telling the stories of the neighborhood and what's happening in the community and that sort of thing. And then I think the sales are kind of a byproduct of that. Like, you become that neighborhood expert. And you're telling people's stories, and I think I hit on this a little bit when I spoke with Melanie Gallia a couple weeks ago, and I'm talking to, and most other people I see, it's like it's shifting a little bit. Like the focus is, and it has been for a while, I guess, but the focus is going to be more about telling your clients' stories, telling the stories of the community that you live in, that you service, as opposed to the sort of thumping your chest, I'm the number one realtor in whatever community that I'm in kind of thing. But I think when you're doing that, when you take a step back, so when I looked at, Melanie has like a Discover Fort McMurray YouTube channel, and then I kind of went back and looked at mine too, and I think by telling other people's stories and like the way that you go about doing it and how you interact with other people, you pretty much tell your own story as well. So when you take a step back, when you look at individual videos, you see the individual people's stories. But when you take a look at an entire playlist on the screen, you get more of an idea of what the person telling the story is like, I think. So I don't know. I'm just talking.
Yeah,
I'm just
totally.
talking now.
I was gonna show you. So I believe in stories so much that I've got the Pixar story script in front of my desk at all times. This is how to tell a story. Because that's all marketing is, right? It's all about telling stories. And the thing with stories is that the thing that often doesn't seem like a story to you because it's just your day-to-day life is a story. Like, people are more interested than you think that they are. And especially as a real estate agent, you get to experience the biggest parts of people's lives with them as they're moving, as they're going through a divorce, as they're having kids, all the things that make people move. And yet a lot of agents are too scared to share their own personal stories and to let their clients into their lives. And your clients want to see that. Like, you're a human being, so tell your own story and share stories about the other clients and the people who are in your life. People love to see that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think, sticking with that story, that line of thinking, I'm going to tell a little bit more about your story. So we've got your Princess Leia yoga shot there, but that again, that sort of segues, I guess, us into like cosplay, because we're geeks and stuff, and we do all this fun stuff. So I've got you as Steve Jobs, so you got some gender bent cosplay, and his mom, I guess. And so it's become really. I don't want to say it's like mainstream at this point, but it is sort of just a part of the culture, I guess, a part of the pop culture here. And there's you here, I think, at Vancouver Fan Expo with a dude dressed as a girl, and I don't know who he's cosplaying, but yeah, I think it's just become an event. Like, the idea of Comic-Con is not something that I started going to Comic-Cons like 25 years ago, when it was like 10 guys and a comic book artist in a room somewhere. And now it's like these huge events It's geek culture. I mean, we talk about it in our little group all the time. It's like it's the golden age of geek culture at this point.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid and I loved Star Wars and I would talk about it all the time, I was a huge geek and that was not cool. And now all of a sudden, you're right, it's like these conventions are huge and all of a sudden liking Star Wars is cool again. Like it kind of bugs me a bit that they've redone Star Wars, because now it's like this thing that all these kids love, and I'm like, man, when I was your age, I liked this and it wasn't cool. you have it so easy.
I was a rebel.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of your Star Wars stuff here, and for a Star Wars fan, and a Star Wars fan who cosplays Leia, getting to meet Princess Leia as in this little photo is got to be this a monumental occasion for you. Like, what was that moment like for you? Just, I can't even imagine it myself. It
was pretty unbelievable. She was impressed with my costume. That is her dog, Gary Fisher, by the way, with his tongue sticking out. Yeah, she was so fantastic. She did a talk. This is at Vancouver Fan Expo. She's just like fun and super honest, and she's really inspirational. It was super cool to meet her. Like, it was kind of an out of body experience, to be honest. Like, it was the weirdest. It was so weird. It was cool.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I've met a few people who I consider to be, I don't know, just in their own industries, I considered them to be gods. So I met a couple of like anime artists and producers years and years ago. And yeah, it's like meeting, well, at this point, I mean, geek culture includes people like Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson and all these people. So it's like meeting them in person, like these A-list stars kind of thing, but within our own little, and obviously Carrie Fisher is one of those as well, even beyond that. But yeah, it's just a crazy way that social media, the internet in general, has brought us that much closer that we can actually have like relationships with these people, like relationships, as far as, or at least communicate with them. I know I've commented like back in the day, like I used to write letters to comic book pages, and I had a couple letters actually printed in the letter pages of comic books, and that was like below my mind that I've actually printed my letter. But now it's like I take a picture of a comic book I'm reading, and you can tag the writer or the artist on Twitter, and they'll respond. And they'll like, it's not even just printing your letter. It's like, hey, I'm glad you liked my stuff. Or I draw a lot, so I'll put some stuff up. And I've had artists look at me and say, hey, I like the way that you interpreted my character, or whatever the case might be. And having these Comic Cons, I think most people missed out by not going to Comic Cons in years past, because now it's so busy. But back in the day, these actors and people used to show up, and you could just stand in line and chat with them. It's like, so I'm chatting with like Michael Rooker from like, Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're shaking hands and chatting away and just having a great old time, right? And it's just like, this is amazing. So yeah, I don't even know where we're going with that one. I'm just like, I'm just enjoying it.
more than just being able to meet celebrities. I mean, the internet has allowed people like us to meet, who like we met on the internet in a group, and I have been able to connect with people just from being like my crazy authentic self that I've met all over the world just on the internet. And that's pretty cool that I can actually build real life relationships with people that I met online, which is something that wasn't possible to do 10 years ago. No.
And I think, the internet is starting to clue in. I think it's been a buzzword for a few years now. This whole idea of authenticity, like you said, being your authentic self. Geek culture has been like that forever. I mean, I think when you went to Comic Cons and stuff like that, or you met up with your geeky friends, it was just so that you could be yourself. And have fun with all the things that you really, really love and are passionate about. And it's a very accepting culture to a certain extent. I mean, there's problems everywhere, but for the most part, if you show up and you've got like the most amazing cosplay costume or the crappiest cosplay costume, everybody's happy just that you're there and that you're having fun and stuff like that. And it's very accepting, I guess, is where diverse is the other one, because it's nowadays especially. I know like 20 years ago, like I wouldn't really see that many girls in a comic book shop. You might see a few here and there, and most of the girls I knew, if they were reading comic books or anything, it was like Archie or something like that. But now, at this point, when I go to I see And it's surprising because I see a lot of women who are my age, who are moms now, who are taking their daughters and sons to Comic-Con, and they're dressing up, so they must have been doing it back then too. They were just a lot more quiet about it because they were girls and they weren't allowed, kind of thing back then, right? But yeah, if you go to a comic book convention now or a comic book shop, it's just everybody. It's just all ages, all genders, all ethnicities, and everybody's just having a good time talking about the latest Avengers movie or Infinity War's coming up, or how they screwed up The Last Jedi, having the battles about what they do to Luke Skywalker, why, what's with the milking scene, why, all this kind of.
I liked The Last Jedi, aside from the milking scene, which is like so unnecessary. I still don't understand the point.
It's like rat taxidermy. It's not needed, but it was kind of neat.
I would have been okay if it had been gone.
Yeah, I'll go on record saying I did enjoy The Last Jedi. I wasn't one of the haters or anything, but a few things made me scratch my head, so I have to say that. Going on with that, I mean, we're going to wrap up a little bit soon too, but I mean, we're looking at sort of the overall, I guess, work-life balance kind of thing. So you've seen, you're very focused on real estate and marketing strategy and building that company that you're starting with the digital marketing services, but you've got like a wide range of interests outside of that. So you're doing like the taxidermy stuff. Obviously, that's fun. Improv and trying a little stand-up and doing the cosplay. So you've got the whole geek side of you that's doing all these kind of things. And you're just like a world traveler. I'm just like looking and I'm seeing all those pictures of you and Keith, of course. Lately anyways. I'm just going to switch around here because my computer's being difficult. There we go. I remember I just followed along on your vacation to Hawaii. And you guys were just having an amazing time there. And then I'm just like scrolling through your trolling your Instagram feed and your Facebook feed because that's what I do. And there's like Paris and there's Reykjavik in the ice caves there and just traveling around. And there's the two of you here kind of dancing in Hawaii. And
so we're actually going on an 8-month trip around the world in July. We're renting the house out. The plan was to Keith's actually like stopping working. He is, he's going to kind of manage the team, but he's not really going to do a lot with clients. And it's more his chance to like take a break, but I'm planning on working as we go. And we're going to live in, I think, 6 different locations over 8 months. So that will be an interesting work-life balance experiment. As far as what I feel about work-life balance, I've always just said that it doesn't exist because if you're someone who's self-employed, your work is kind of your life. Like I just bring it into everything that I do. And if you love what you do enough, it's okay that sometimes I have to work at 10 o'clock at night because I have a deadline. I love it. And that is my life. And I want to share all the other things that I do with my clients and the people that I work with. So if I'm doing rat taxidermy or improv, I mean, I share that with people, and that's as big of a part of my life as my social media stuff. It's just that one I get paid for and one I don't. So it's kind of, there's no balance. It's like a work-life blend. Yeah. You just do the best you can, live your life.
I agree. And I think I've heard that, going back a few years now as well. I think trying to think too hard about it almost messes it up. I think that it kind of happens. And I know I listened to or had the chance to see Simon Sinek back in January, and one of his takeaways, I guess, was, if you're working a crazy number of hours at something that you hate doing, then it's stressful and it's work. But if you're working a crazy number of hours doing something that you love to do and that you're passionate about, then it's just that. It's just passion and it's just fun and it's just part of what you do. You and Keith are just working away. I know Keith runs the very successful team out in there. Whereabouts is Keith located as far as team goes? As far as whereabouts do they cover real estate wise?
Yeah, Vancouver. The actual Vancouver, not really. Like they'll work a little bit into Burnaby, but mostly it's just straight up Vancouver. We live in the middle of the city, right by Queen Elizabeth Park, so he covers anything. in the city. The team is like 6 people, so we've got buyer's agents and other agents. So there's a lot of people who can take any of your referrals.
There you go. No, just wonder. And I know, like, having the access to the internet and all that stuff has changed the way that we work, so that you can do. I know Danny Wood's kind of doing the same thing. He's just kind of picked up stakes, and he's traveling wherever he can go with his wife, and you guys are going to be off. So you can basically work remotely from wherever you have an internet connection, really. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's my plan. We're kind of making sure that we're always somewhere that's got internet. I'm getting one of those, there's like an internet box thing that you can take with you, and so you always have the internet. And as long as I have that, I can kind of work from wherever.
Yeah. I guess, and the other thing I was going to ask too is because I'm impressed with the relationship you guys have. I know we didn't discuss this, so I'm going to make you very uncomfortable now. But I know there's a few people who I'd really admire, Bruce Johnson and Mary Johnson, and they're both members of our little group as well, and they've been married forever and have kids, and they do a lot of Children's Miracle Network type stuff. They have just one of those relationships that it's just, to me, is just amazing. Like, they're just head over heels for each other even now, kind of thing. And it's been fun, like, because you share a lot, so it's been fun watching you guys sort of bounce around the world and be all sugary sweet and in love and giving me cavities as I watch your Instagram feed, that kind of thing. How I don't know if you can answer this question, but how important is it? Because I've seen it before. I think Buffini mentioned it one time years and years ago, and other people have as well. Probably Richard Robbins has as well. But having that relationship with that person who really supports what you do and who kind of gets what you do, how important is that to you, or how has it helped you sort of get along and get to where you are right now?
Yeah, it's very important. Keith and I have always known each other from the realm of real estate. We actually met. He trained me when I became a realtor. At the time, I was married to somebody else. It took us a while to eventually find each other again. But so it helps that we have that basis. Like, we've always worked together. We share a lot of very similar passions. And so I've always supported him in what he does. He supports me. It helps a lot. He gets it because he's working long, crazy days. And so when I have to work long, crazy days, he understands it. Yeah, he really does help me move forward. I mean, I've always said Keith is my soulmate. I love him forever.
And you're introducing him to Star Wars very slowly.
Yeah, so, it's been a long go, but he's now seeing the original trilogy.
Oh, there you go.
It is he watches one every Valentine's Day.
Okay.
That is so it'll be a while, but he'll get there.
Try to slip in Blade Runner in there somewhere. See what
I've been trying. I keep saying, like, and I said, well, let's watch Blade Runner. He says, you've already seen it. I'm here to watch it again.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll do it again, man. And the last one, I took your advice. You gave me advice to watch Blade Runner 2049, and I was blown away. That was so good. I feel badly that it didn't do so well in the theaters, but I kind of expected it. It's a pretty hardcore sci-fi type thing, but just a gorgeous, beautiful movie.
Cinematography award.
Yes.
It won the Oscar for cinematography, which it should have. I was super happy about that.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, acting was good, story was good. I was really happy. As a geek and one who's been a fan of the original for decades now, I was happy with that one. I was really satisfied. So, anyways, we're going to wrap it up now. We've been here almost an hour, so we could talk forever. But where can people kind of get a hold of you? I know the website is not Stephanie Arnold. It's StephArnold.com.
Yes. Some stupid Germans own StephanieArnold.com, and I've been trying to buy it off of them for years. So
there you go.
So right now, just StephArnold.com.
Cool. And how else is best? Like, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you if they want to contact you about digital marketing services, or get to know about the Richard Robbins type stuff? Yeah. If they want to learn about rat taxidermy. I don't know.
You can find me on Facebook. It's Stephanie Arnold. I've got a Facebook page that I've never marketed, but I will. It's Stephanie Arnold Marketing. I'm on Instagram at the Stephanator, or you can email me Stephanie@StephArnold.com. I'm really everywhere. I'm not particularly hard to get a hold of.
No, I don't think so. Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming on. I know taking your time. I know it's still early there in BC. What's the weather like? We had an ice storm on the weekend, and it's like 10 degrees above, but there's still like a foot of ice on my balcony. So
you guys have had just bullshit weather.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Bullshit weather and a bullshit real estate market to go with it.
It is sunny, which is weird. Well, it's very un-Vancouver. It is sunny out today, and it's pretty warm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the
sorry.
time. Maybe at some point when you get some other things happening, we'll get to go. We'll promote your Facebook for Realtor videos when you get that up and running. And we'll chat. We always chat. We'll chat about fun stuff soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll be out in your way in a few months, so I'll
awesome.
be reaching out to you.
Yeah, let me know. We'll go. Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
You're welcome.
Bye. Then. There you go. That was my good friend and colleague Stephanie Arnold from British Columbia, from Vancouver area. She's with the Keith Roy team, and she does work for Richard Robbins, but you can reach her at stepharnold.com, and she is a digital marketer, so she'll help you get your social media strategy set up, give you audits for your website and your social media feeds, so give you an idea as to what you can do, and all that sort of stuff. And if you want to just contact her about podcasts and other geeky type stuff, she can help you with all that as well. So thanks my friend Stephanie for joining us for this hour-long chat about all things geeky and all things real estate. She is just an amazing individual. I am so, blessed to have met people like her and to have added them to my little geeky real estate group, the League of Real Estate Geeks. It's just an amazing group of people that grows all the time. And they're just, again, great people. So if you ever need anybody across Canada or into the US, let me know, because I got some great people that I can refer you to. Again, I just wanted to let you know that since we've been here for so long, I'm going to stop talking soon, that I am Tony, the Geeky Agent. This has been Remax Geek TV, or at least my version of it. If you are looking for me online, you can find me at Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Also on Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Tumblr. But Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram is where the majority of my content resides. If you want to contact me directly, you give me a shout at 289-237-9896, or email me, Tony@thegeekyagent.com. And you can also visit my website, thegeekyagent.com or hamiltonlifestylesearch.com, if you are looking for a home in Hamilton. Thanks again, everybody, for joining me today. I really do appreciate you tuning in. I love you all. If you're on YouTube, take a look around up here somewhere and hit that subscribe button so you'll know when I'm on again. And I hope you have a great rest of the Friday. Have a great weekend. I'm going to be out and about showing people properties and doing open houses and all that sort of stuff to help my clients buy and sell properties here in Hamilton and make donations to Children's Miracle Network. That's what we do. So thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, as always, I love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.